All right, so good morning. We are going to chat a little bit this morning about LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn the way that professionals tend to use LinkedIn. So I know that you probably hear from, me and from maybe faculty members and mentors and other folks, you need to make a LinkedIn, you need to have all of your information on LinkedIn. And I know that that sounds very cliche. And yes, we've all heard of networking, but we're not exactly sure often, I think, exactly how to use LinkedIn to kind of leverage our skills and leverage our relationships. And so that's what I want to show you this morning. So the first thing I'm going to spend a couple of minutes doing is going through the basics of a strong LinkedIn profile so that on your end, you kind of know what the expectation is when someone says, oh, is your LinkedIn looking good? You kind of know, well, what does somebody mean by is my LinkedIn looking good? So if we go to our profile here, you're going to notice a few kind of key things that I want to point out. First, you'll have the opportunity to upload a professional headshot, and you'll also have the opportunity to upload sort of what's similar to a Facebook cover photo. This doesn't need to be anything specific. I would just say make it something relatively simple. You don't want anything with a lot of text because that may just distract folks from getting right into the rest of your information. Oftentimes, you can find a pretty picture of campus if you want to put something that represents your institution. So that may be something to consider. But certainly, it's important to have a profile photo here, kind of a headshot that is only you, relatively close up so we can tell who you are and what you look like. And you want to make sure, again, that that's something where either you're dressed professionally or you're not wearing casual clothes, tank tops, things like that. The next kind of important thing you can do is you can work on this tagline. And this tagline is what will show up when somebody searches for you. What they'll be able to see is your full name and your tagline. And so a lot of students I see will make their tagline something like student at the University of Central Florida. And so that's fine. That's a good start. It explains what you're currently doing, who you are. But I would encourage you to go a step farther and make that tagline a little bit catchier in terms of what you can offer to someone or what you bring to the table. So instead of just listing that you are a student, maybe list what you're studying or a couple of the top skills or experiences that you would be marketing to potential future employers, somebody that you might be wanting to intern for or work for. So you can see here, my tagline doesn't say anything about my current role at UCF. My tagline talks about some of the key skills or experiences that I use in my role. So it talks about the fact that I am a relationship builder, that I generate ideas, that I use data to make decisions. And so those would be things that would more likely stand out to somebody reading your profile. And it might encourage them to say, I wonder in what capacity Courtney does all of those things. So that is kind of this key piece here. Another thing before we scroll too far down, you'll notice up here in the top right hand corner, it says edit public profile and URL. If you click on that button, you'll see this is where you can actually edit the link, the URL to your LinkedIn profile. So you'll notice I just have my name, Courtney M. Pelfrey, there as kind of the back end of that link. You'll want to edit that so that it's not just a random string of numbers and letters. And that way, when you put it on your resume, it doesn't take up a ton of room in your heading. And it's a little bit easier for somebody to read and understand. So that is where that lives when we talk about editing your custom URL. You can also edit your profile's visibility if you want certain things to be private versus public. This is where you could edit all of that. You can make sure that if you only wanted certain people to see your photo, or if you only wanted certain people to be able to see all of the information and the details you post, you can turn that off and on depending on what you have an interest in kind of highlighting for people and how private or public you want your profile to be. So I'm just going to come back here to my main profile. So the next thing you're going to have an opportunity to work on is this about section. And what's really important to know about this about section, this is what really differentiates your LinkedIn profile from something like your resume. Your resume and your LinkedIn are going to share a lot of characteristics. They should list your education, they should list your experience, your skills, volunteering, student organizations. They will mirror each other a little bit in that way, but you don't ever have a chance on your resume to talk as conversationally and personally about yourself as you do in this about section. And so a model that might be helpful for you to think about as you are creating this about section on your LinkedIn profile is, what is my past and how did that kind of influence where I am today? So for me, my past is, what did I study in school and how did that kind of lead to my professional career? So what have I done before? What am I currently doing? So what is my current role? And then also, what are my future goals or plans? What is something that I hope I will be able to do or achieve or grow into in the future? So if you kind of think about that past, present, future model as a way to build this about section, I think that will help you in getting started. The other thing you can list here in this about section is, if you want a sentence or two about what you like to do outside of work. So, outside of my professional career, I'm really interested in traveling personally, or learning another language, or spending time with my family. This, again, is a good way for readers to get to know you outside of kind of this candidate role that we're always talking about. It's a little bit more personal and conversational and friendly, and you get to decide what kind of story are you telling about yourself. So I would definitely encourage you to spend some time really building out that about section, because again, that is what somebody's going to want to read that they will never get to see on your resume. So you'll come down here and then you'll have a chance to build out lots of different sections. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through each individual section because I think that LinkedIn does a very good job of encouraging you and sort of prompting you to add details. And so it's relatively self-explanatory in that way. But you'll notice that I have my professional experience listed here. Something that's unique about LinkedIn is that you can actually add graphics to your experience section. So if you created marketing for one of your roles, or you want to highlight some projects that you worked on, you can add graphics, which is different. You'll be able to put in all of your education. So you'll be able to see, where did this person receive their bachelor's degree? If you go on to get a master's degree, where did you receive that degree? And you can even add activities underneath each of those. So you'll be able to see kind of what were you involved in at the University of Central Florida while you were a student. If you have additional licenses and certifications, there's a section for that. There's a section for volunteer experience if you're doing things, in and around campus in a volunteer capacity. Something else that's a really cool section is this skills and endorsement section. So what this is basically you are able to go in and identify your skills. So I can go in and I can say, here's my industry knowledge, here are my interpersonal skills, additional skills. And you'll notice that then folks that I'm connected with on LinkedIn can endorse me for those skills. So basically, this is just saying that 34 people in my network agreed that I had an industry knowledge of event planning. And people don't put a ton of stock into, how many people have endorsed Courtney for student affairs. So it's not necessarily that you need to be worried about some numerical value there. It's more just a chance to engage with people and to kind of almost recognize someone's work. So sometimes you'll get sort of messages from LinkedIn saying, would you like to endorse Courtney Pelfrey for recruiting? And if you feel like, yes, I've worked with Courtney Pelfrey in that capacity before, absolutely, I'll endorse her for that skill. But mainly, this is a great chance for you to keep a really detailed account of your own skills, both hard skills, kind of those technology skills, software skills, computer skills, but also your soft transferable skills, things like problem solving and communication, time management, leadership. And again, we don't have this space on our resume to be able to list all of this kind of in such an in-depth way. So take advantage of building out this section on your LinkedIn profile. Another interesting section on LinkedIn, again, that's very unique from your resume, is this recommendation section. So you can either ask for a recommendation, which will allow you to send a message to someone maybe who has supervised your work, maybe someone who has served as a mentor. But also, I find that one of the best ways to get recommendations is to write recommendations first. So for example, I may want to write my supervisor a recommendation. Maybe they're a phenomenal supervisor. I think they have great management skills, great leadership skills. So oftentimes what I can do is just go to their profile and write a recommendation. And it will always send them the recommendation first so that that person can choose whether or not to have it published to their profile. It won't just show up. If I receive one of those in my inbox and I say, wow, that is so kind for this person to have written me this recommendation, oftentimes I'm going to feel compelled to go back and write them a recommendation as well. So that's just kind of a little tip or a trick. If you are looking for some recommendations to get your profile started, start by writing other folks' recommendations. And oftentimes that will kind of go both ways, and it's a really great way to get a few recommendations on your profile. Now you'll come down here and you'll see there's this accomplishment section, which has a lot of subsections. So it may ask you what courses you've taken. You can put in, the various courses you've taken for your degree. It'll ask you about any publications, places where you've written, journal articles or blog posts, organizations you're a part of, honors and awards, and so on and so forth. So again, relatively straightforward to kind of go and add that information. The last section you see here is this interests section. And so what's really unique about this is kind of how you are going to build your news feed. So when you think of social media, you think of scrolling through a news feed and seeing who's posted what and what's new. Well, on LinkedIn, you want that to be as curated and as tailored to your interests and your goals as possible. So the more interests you have, the better your news feed will be in terms of the kinds of content you want to see. So for example, I follow here a number of what LinkedIn calls influencers, people who are, big names in their field. They put out, inspirational articles, motivational writing, things like that. But you can also follow companies. So, the industry I work in, employer relations, I work with a lot of companies. So I follow a lot of big companies to see, are they recruiting? What kind of information are they putting out? Because I work in higher education, I follow a lot of other institutions of higher education to see what are other schools doing in their career centers and things like that. You can join groups. So you can, join professional organizations that you're already affiliated with. Many of those, if not most of those, have their own LinkedIn group. But you can also just join things that sound interesting or things that are relevant to you in terms of what you have done previously. Join alumni groups, networking groups. You'll see there are great groups like the Orlando Professional Network, Networking in Orlando, but every city tends to have LinkedIn groups like that. So wherever you're looking to go in terms of internships or jobs, go ahead and start plugging into some of those professional groups. And then, like I mentioned, schools, I follow a lot of education institutions just because of the nature of my work. So you'll be able to kind of see what are some of my different interests in that regard. But I would say definitely as you're building out your profile, make sure that you have some interests already on there. Again, that's what's going to allow you to have a more robust news feed and to really see who's doing what and how are things going, and follow companies that you're interested in working for so you know how they're appearing in the news. Have they had any kind of big breakthroughs lately? Certainly they'll post jobs on their feed, things like that. So that is as deep in as I want to go kind of to our individual profiles, but I want to just open it up. Are there any questions about your own personal LinkedIn profile before we get kind of move on to the next section? No, we feel pretty good. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you are kind of these tabs up here at the top. Some of these are relatively self-explanatory, but again, I want to show you kind of some of the ins and outs so you really feel like you're using this like a pro. Your network, this will show you what people you are connected with are up to. So it'll kind of even further refine your newsfeed and show you kind of updates, job highlights, things like that. Jobs, pretty self-explanatory, but important to know about. This is the Jobs tab. So what I've done here is I've set up some example job searches. And what you'll see is that LinkedIn will then also give you suggested job searches based on things that you have searched for in the past. And what's nice is I use LinkedIn to search with a lot of students in one-on-one appointments. So I am going to get kind of jobs all over the board. But it's kind of nice to see what's happening in different industries. You can, however, set up your own job alerts where you can actually refine a search and then say, okay, I want you to send me the results of this search every week or every month. And you'll get an email from LinkedIn talking about kind of what's new in that specific search. You can also save jobs. So if I come down here and I say, oh, wow, this program manager role with Stryker looks really interesting, I would click this little tab here to save this job. And so then I could come back and see any jobs that I had saved. If I want to see salary insights, I can also look at, okay, I can refine my search by a certain dollar amount or a range that I'm interested in. I can refine this search by taking skill assessments to see how do my profile skills align with certain jobs. That's another really compelling reason to make sure you're adding skills to your resume, or sorry, to your LinkedIn profile, to that section, because the stronger your skills section is, the higher match you will be with a lot of jobs that say, okay, we need these 10 skills. Well, if you match in 8 of them, that's going to be, a compelling reason for a company to look at your LinkedIn profile if they see an application come through. You can also just do a relatively simple search. You can search by a title, a skill, a company. Let's just do a quick one as an example. If I want to be an instructional design consultant, you'll see that all I did was click on that suggestion, and I've got a whole list of opportunities here that I can scroll through. It's always going to highlight the first, so if I click on the second, you'll see it'll highlight the second. You'll notice a few things when you're using the LinkedIn job search feature. This apply button will either take you to an external website, or some companies collect LinkedIn data and will use your profile to complete your application. So I wouldn't recommend applying for jobs directly through LinkedIn unless your profile is very built out and it has all of the information that you would be typically submitting in an application. So make sure your profile is really robust before just hitting apply to a bunch of positions. If you're not quite ready to apply, of course, you can save it, but you can also see some interesting content here. How many applicants have applied so far? And that just means how many people have clicked on this apply button. What level is the job? How big is the company? What type of company are they? So you'll see here, one company alum. If I want to find out who else from UCF is already working for this company, Steris, I could click here and find the profile of another person that I already have something in common with, who's applying or who already works for the company, excuse me. So that's kind of nice for networking, because your goal should always be to reach out to somebody internally to a company before completing the application process. You have a much higher likelihood of being able to be interviewed for a job or move on to the next round if you've already made some internal connection. When you think about it, if you were the one hiring and you had 50 resumes in front of you and you knew that 5 of those 50 had already scheduled a phone call with you, they'd reached out via email, they'd connected on LinkedIn, you'd probably be pretty likely to at least move those 5 to the next round because they'd gone above and beyond. They show that they were very interested in the position. And again, they took a little bit of extra time to make a personal connection. So this is one way that you could start making those personal connections. And we'll go into that even more in a few minutes. Another thing that a lot of folks don't know is you can find out here who the recruiter is who posted the job. Not every organization will show you this information, but if I were really interested in this job, my first order of business would probably be to connect with Suzanne Schumann, because Suzanne Schumann is the one who posted the job. She's a senior talent acquisition partner. And for that reason, she may have some knowledge of the hiring process. She may be making the decision. So if I don't have LinkedIn Premium, it means that I probably can't send her an in-mail right now. I don't pay for that version of LinkedIn, and I'm not advocating that as students you need to pay for that right now. It's probably not something you need to do. But what I could do is I could Google Suzanne's name and Steris and see if I could find a work email for her. And then I could shoot her an email if I find her email. And I could say, hi, I found your information on LinkedIn. I'm really interested in learning more about this particular job with Steris, the lead instructional designer in Birmingham, Alabama. I see that there's an option for remote work. I'd like to learn more about that. I'd love to know more about what you're looking for in candidates. So you could, take that conversation to several different places, but that is all great information to know. And we haven't even gotten down into the position description yet. So make sure that before you reach out to anyone internally, that you've read the full position description, you understand what they're looking for, and probably also go to their own LinkedIn page and read more about the company as well. Make sure you are digging in as much as you can, doing your homework, so to speak, before connecting with folks, because you don't want to be asking questions in that sort of informational interview setting that you should already know the answer to if you had done kind of the appropriate level of research. So I'm not going to get too much farther into this job section because, again, I think that this works similarly enough to most other job search engines that it will be pretty self-explanatory. I want to come back up here to the top and show you the remaining buttons that we have. So you've got notifications. This would be like any social media platform where you would check to see, has somebody engaged with you? Has somebody requested to connect with you? Has somebody commented on a post you've made? That sort of thing. You can also click Me, and you'll be able to manage some of your own information this way. So of course, you can always view your profile to see how are other people seeing my work. So if you want to see it kind of not from the back end editing view, but you want to look at it the way maybe a recruiter would be looking at it, you can do that there. And then you can come over here to work, and you'll see a couple of things here. So this gets into a little bit of the higher level function of LinkedIn, things that maybe recruiters and people like that would be using it for. So I don't think probably most students right now are going to need much of this information, but I just want to let you know that this is where this lives. If you ever get into the recruiting world, certainly this is a tool that you'd be using a lot more frequently. Lastly, up here at the top, you'll see this tab that says LinkedIn Learning. This is a feature that not a lot of people know about, and therefore not a lot of people take advantage of, but it is amazing. So what I want to show you is just how to use LinkedIn Learning really quickly. So you all have access to LinkedIn Learning for free just by virtue of being a UCF student. And what's really cool about LinkedIn Learning, especially in this, unprecedented year with COVID, is that it's a great way to build skills and experience without ever leaving your computer. So what you can do is you can search in LinkedIn Learning for any type of skill that you're interested in building. Let's say I really want to know more about conflict resolution because that's something on my resume that I'd like to say that I have experience with. You'll see here that I have got lots and lots of different videos and courses to choose from. A video typically indicates that it's just one video, so you meant to be watched pretty much in one sitting. This one is 3 minutes and 11 seconds. I could save that if it's something that I'm interested in coming back to later. But also, maybe I want more of a course. So a course typically indicates that it's a series of videos or a longer video. So 51 minutes here if I want to take a course on conflict resolution foundations. A learning path means that it's a series of different videos or courses all woven into what we call a learning path. Those typically are much lengthier, 8 hours and 24 minutes you'll see for this one. But this is the type of thing that you could list as a training or certificate on your resume. So if I want to go through a whole learning path and work on developing conflict management and resolution skills, I could go through some of this learning path and really be able to put some strong emphasis on that on my resume. So of course, it's not just for those, transferable skills like conflict resolution. Let's say I want to build hard skills like working on PowerPoint. Maybe I'm not exactly sure how to use PowerPoint, or I want to be able to master my use of PowerPoint based on a job I'm applying for or something like that. You'll see here, there are lots of different courses, videos, and learning paths on using PowerPoint. And so I can go through and I can see how many people have taken that course before, which might help me to decide if it's something I'm interested in. But also you might just decide based on how long it is or specific tips and tricks that you're hoping to get out of it. For example, if I just want to know how to create an infographic, I may just want to take this one course. It's less than 2 hours. One of my coworkers has favorited this course, but you can kind of see how this might be helpful. Now, what's really cool is that we in Career Services have added some of our own learning paths to LinkedIn Learning. So if you go up here to browse, you're going to see a really long list of all different types of content that you might be interested in. But what you can click down here is the University of Central Florida. And then you're going to find content that we have uploaded that you can access, again, for free in LinkedIn Learning. So we have a learning path on searching for jobs. It's only 21 minutes long, but it's a great start. Exploring careers and industries, preparing before the job search, and so on and so forth. So this may be another section to check out because I frequently get the question, how do I enhance my LinkedIn profile or how do I enhance my resume? And using LinkedIn Learning to build new skills and experiences can be an excellent way to showcase, you know what, right now, maybe I'm not able to be in an internship, or maybe I'm not able to work a part-time job. With COVID and everything going on, it's just not something I feel comfortable doing, but I'm using my time wisely and I'm completing different trainings and certificates and courses on LinkedIn Learning to continue building my skills from home in this kind of remote environment. So again, that's just something that I wanted to let you know about. You'll have kind of your dashboard here. It'll talk about classes that you're working on. It'll show you top picks. And all of that sort of thing. So that's LinkedIn Learning. I'm going to come back here to our main LinkedIn page, but I want to plug that briefly so that you know that it exists. The way that you access it is by connecting your LinkedIn profile with your UCF email, because the way that you have access to LinkedIn Learning for free is through your UCF credentials. And then once you've connected those accounts, this little LinkedIn Learning box will show up here in the top right-hand corner of your profile. The next thing I want to show you is a tool called LinkedIn Learning Alumni, just LinkedIn Alumni. If I search for the University of Central Florida, which is a page that I would encourage you all to follow no matter what, as this is your alma mater, you'll see here there's several different tabs, and one of them says Alumni. If you come to this Alumni tab here, let's see, my LinkedIn is going to, of course, decide to act up a little bit. Let me refresh that. Here we go. You'll see over 240,000 UCF alumni. And so what this is pulling is it's pulling the data right from their profile. So anyone who has indicated that they attended UCF as a student is being pulled into this data set. What's amazing for you that a lot of people don't know about is that you can search this data set by a ton of different filters. You can search by where they live, where they work. We can come over here, we can look at what they do or what they studied. And on the last page, we can search for people by skills that they say that they have or how you're connected. So first connections are people that I'm directly connected with, and so on and so forth out kind of the levels, second degree connections and third degree connections. So just to kind of give you an example of how this might be useful to you all, let's do just kind of an example. Perhaps I am looking for internships in the Orlando, Florida area, and I am really not sure where to get started or who to start reaching out to make some of those personal internal connections, because I mentioned that is going to be one of your greatest assets, is if you can connect with people one-on-one before or during the application process, your chances of getting interviewed are going to be much higher. So we're going to start with a search in Orlando because I want to narrow it down to folks who are local. You'll notice that doesn't narrow us down too terribly much because a lot of UCF alumni stay in the Orlando area. So we still have 123,000 alumni. So now let's come over to this next page, and I want to see, all right, well, let's study by, let's filter by what they studied. I want to look at someone who studied something similar to me. So if I come down, maybe I'm studying health services administration, and that is sort of the field that I'm looking to go into. Well, when I click on that, now we still have 1,900 alumni, but we're narrowing down the pool. But what I can start to see that's cool is I can start to see where are these people primarily working. 231 work or have worked for Advent Health, 151 work or have worked for Orlando Health, and you'll kind of see so on and so forth, lots of different areas. Now, what's really cool about this is probably if you're studying health administration, right, you probably have heard of Advent Health and Orlando Health. Those are two huge employers in the Central Florida area. But as you scroll down, maybe you're thinking to yourself, interesting, I hadn't thought about the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as a place that somebody with my degree might be interested in looking. I scroll down even further, maybe I hadn't considered HCA Healthcare. So I think, all right, well, let's see what HCA Healthcare is all about. So now I've narrowed this down to just 7 alumni, and I can scroll down here and I can actually see all of their profiles and who they are. I can see what their title is, if they have that in their tagline, and I can also see the year they graduated and the program that they graduated from. I'll also be able to see if I have any shared connections with that alumni. So as I'm looking at this, maybe I'm saying to myself, all right, well, I'm really interested in knowing more about what a system business analyst might do in the healthcare setting. I can see that this person graduated in 2007 with their HSA degree. Tracy Bell may be somebody that I'm interested in messaging to ask for a further conversation. Again, this is informational interviewing. This is networking. You can do it virtually. It doesn't have to feel daunting. You already have something in common with all of these people just by virtue of having found them using the UCF alumni tool, because you have UCF in common. So what I would do is maybe first I would look at Tracy's profile and click on it. I'd get a little bit more information. I would see what is kind of her work history, how has she gotten to this point, just to familiarize myself. And then I may send Tracy a message. Now, LinkedIn is always going to give you the option of sending the generic message and also a tailored, more personalized message. And so that personalized message is always the option you want to go with so that Tracy knows how you found her profile. And so I might say something like, "Hi there, Tracy. My name is Courtney Pelfrey, and I'm a current UCF student studying Health Services Administration. I found your profile using the UCF Alumni feature on LinkedIn, and I wanted to reach out because I'm really interested to learn more about what it's like to work for HCA. I have a few questions and wondered if you might want to spend 10 or 15 minutes on the phone just so I could pick your brain about a couple of things. Thanks so much for your time, Courtney." It doesn't have to be lengthy. It can be short, sweet, and to the point. But the whole idea is that you're just reaching out asking for information. You're not saying, "Hi, Tracy, give me an internship," or "Hi, Tracy, I really need a job and hope you can help." You're just asking for information so that you can get to know each other in a less formal setting. Explain who you are, be ready to share a copy of your resume, but then also have some good questions prepared for whoever you're going to be meeting with. So you may want to know things like, how long have you been with the company and why have you stayed, or what keeps you there? What is the good, the bad, and the ugly? I typically say, don't hesitate to ask about what's hard or what's challenging, or what Tracy wished that she'd known when she got into the field. Those are all questions that will really help you to decide, is that a place that I might be interested in interning or working eventually or not? How does it align with my skills and my strengths and my interests and my values? All of those important components. Now we can come back out here just so I can show you a different search. But what I want you to know about this is sometimes I get the question, well, isn't this creepy if I'm reaching out to people who I've never met before? But you have to remember that this is the whole point of LinkedIn. People would not be on LinkedIn if they didn't think that there was the option for people to be reaching out to them in this networking capacity. That is, again, it's the whole point of the platform. The platform was designed for this networking component. So how can you use this to your advantage? Certainly, you're going to get great insight from alumni that you might choose to connect with and talk with. And I frequently, encourage students, make this a habit. So if you can tell yourself, all right, every week I'm going to connect with 3 new people, or every week I'm going to connect with 5 new people. You may not hear back from all of those people because not everyone checks their LinkedIn on a daily basis, but it's still going to give you some great data in terms of where are alumni working, what types of cities are they gravitating towards, what are the biggest employers in that field. And like we mentioned, you can come over and if you'd rather look by type of job. So maybe I say, all right, well, I don't know exactly what I want to do with my degree yet, but I know that I'm really interested in marketing. So I can narrow it down to these, 9,900 alumni who are somehow engaged in marketing. And now, again, I can start to look at this updated data. Lots of folks even working at UCF. So maybe you say, well, that's really interesting. I didn't ever consider that I could maybe use my marketing skills at UCF. So maybe I click there at UCF, and then I come down and I can see what are different people doing with marketing skills at UCF. Some of them are in recruitment. Some of them are in advertising, marketing, social media, business development. So you can kind of scroll down, and again, you're going to get this great overview to see what are different folks doing to leverage their skills and their experience, and how might I do something similar, or at least get information on how I would do something similar. So this is a tool that, again, I just want everyone to know about and be familiar with because I think it's so important. And this is how professionals are using LinkedIn. They're using these kind of behind the scenes tools. They're using LinkedIn Learning. They're really setting up kind of detailed job filters for themselves. And so I want you to build out not only a great profile, but then I want you to go that next extra step to use LinkedIn the way that it was created to be used. Because I think that you'll find a lot of value in some of these other components if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. So the last thing I'll leave you with is, when you're on LinkedIn, treat LinkedIn similarly to the way you treat other social media. And what I mean by that is engage with people. So we'll use this as an example. If I see this come up and I see that my connection, Eddie Cole, who now is an associate professor at UCLA, but Eddie's sharing here that he's excited about a speaking tour that he has coming up for a book that he's written. I may want to comment on that, like it. I could send it to somebody else who might be interested in. Don't hesitate to engage with folks, because again, this is how you stay connected to your network. Now, you don't want to do it kind of just to do it. You want to have a reason. But if I want to congratulate Eddie on this speaking tour on his new book, this would be an easy, simple way for me to do that and let him know, you know what, I'm really excited about the things that you're doing professionally. I can come down here, and again, maybe I see here, all right, there's going to be a new theme parks master's program now offered at UCF. So I would look at this and I would see, all right, what is this about? Maybe I read the article, but then once I'm well versed in what's going on, maybe there's somebody I want to send this to because I feel like, wow, they would really benefit from this information. Attend events on LinkedIn. Follow, again, we talked about following organizations that you're really excited about. But as you scroll down, again, this is your chance to kind of make a mark in even a small way on an industry that you're interested in, and to start getting your name out there and learning from folks who have been in the industry longer than you have. So I'm going to come back up here and I am going to open it up for questions at this point. What have we not talked about that you are curious about, or maybe it's something we did talk about and you'd like a little bit more information? Any questions? I'm not seeing any questions, so I am going to assume that we have thoroughly covered everything that we wanted to cover today. And with that being said, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. But the last thing I want to say is just that you are welcome to reach out to me via email if you need anything. My email is courtney.pelfrey, Pelfrey, @ucf.edu. Oh, I see. Let's see. Sorry about that, Dina. I saw that you had put a question in the chat a little bit ago. Can I talk a bit more about a headline for a student who may not have a lot of experience? That is a great question. So when we talked in the beginning about creating that headline underneath your name, if you don't have a lot of experience, certainly you could be just descriptive about what you're studying and what you're searching for. So perhaps I say something like, psychology student seeking internship opportunities in industrial organizational psychology, just as an example. So you would give employers some indication of what were you looking for, what are you open to talking about, that sort of thing. And so, the detail there helps so a recruiter or anyone looking at your profile knows what they're looking for. Another question, if you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, at what point is it okay to let them know that you're seeking an internship or job? That's another great question. So let's say I'm sending out those personalized connection requests and I'm saying, again, I'm introducing myself. Here's how I found you. I would initiate the conversation first as purely informational. So, let's say you set up a phone call and then we're talking on the phone or maybe over Zoom and we're saying, I'd love to know more about your role. As that conversation naturally progresses, likely the person will say, so tell me about yourself. And at that point, you're going to have kind of that opportunity to give your little elevator pitch. Here's what I'm studying. Here's what my professional goals might be. And you can say something like, I'm actually in the process of looking for internships, or I'm in the process of, starting my full-time job search. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to reach out, is I'm so intrigued by your organization. I want to know, might this be a good fit for me based on what I'm studying and what my skills are and what experience I bring to the table, and put the ball in their court too, and let them say, you know what, actually we are hiring for X, Y, and Z role. Or it even could be that they say something like, at this time, we're actually not hiring, but if you send me a copy of your resume, I'd love to keep that on file for when we do open up our next hiring cycle. So don't underestimate the power, I would say, of this being a good long-term investment, in your professional future as well. I will tell you from, firsthand personal experience, when I was kind of going through this networking process in graduate school, I was reaching out to people who worked at different career centers because I'm in career services. That's what I knew I wanted to do. And so I was having these informational interviews with different people. And I did informational interviews with folks who helped me to get my first job, but then also people who helped me to get my second job. So it might not be your first job that connection is helping you to build, but you never know when you're going to circle back and call on that person later and say, I know we talked a few years ago and I hope you're doing well. And I just wanted to check in and see how things were going. I thought of you because I'm actually getting ready to, relocate to your area, or I'm in the process of looking for new opportunities. And I just wanted to see, what might be available with your organization. Again, that is the point of this platform, is that networking component. So, make sure that you are authentic and transparent so somebody gets to know you and what you're interested in, but certainly always entering the conversation with an ask for information is going to be your best bet. Any other questions that I can answer? All right, well, again, you know how to find me, courtney.pelfrey@ucf.edu. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And we do in career services, we'll critique your LinkedIn profile. So once you have it looking good and you've gotten your information on there, set up an appointment with us so we can walk through it with you and make sure that there's nothing that needs to be tweaked or anything like that. And that's something that we're more than happy to do. So at that point, I am going to stop